Okay. InTune. In the beginning, God created light and said, I can do better. So he made the world. Then he said, I can do better, and made the animals. He saw the animals and said again, I can do even better. So he made man. God saw all that he had made and still said, I can do better. So he made woman. Then God rested because he said, I can do no better. Okay. Woman, created by God, created in God's image, created from the rib of man, created to be man's helper. Man said, this is now bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. For this cause a man shall leave his father and mother, and shall cleave to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. And the man and his wife were both naked and not ashamed. In this beautiful duet of marriage, we become one with our mates, one emotionally and physically. We become transparent, open with our desires as to what notes are arousing and which ones aren't, without shame, disappointment, or frustrations. Indeed, our bodies are fearfully and wonderfully made, equipped with the capacity to provide a wide range of intense, wonderful physical sensations for us both to enjoy. In 1 Corinthians 7, verses 3 through 5, Paul says that in marriage, each gives his own body to the other. Such a gift is an extremely important trust to be accepted lovingly and never abused. In marriage, neither partner rules any longer over his or her own body. The partner is now lovingly given that privilege. In verse 5 of 1 Corinthians 7, Paul says, do not refuse one another. Stop depriving one another. Problems develop over the withholding of sexual satisfaction. The harsh notes of hostility, resentment, and bitterness ring loud and clear in our duet of marriage. This harmony can ruin the love ballad we're learning to play. The only reason we're to lay our instruments down is for a period of fasting and prayer. And even in this act, we should be in harmony because of Paul's admonition in 1 Corinthians 7:5 about it needing to be done in agreement. Now, in order for us as wives to fulfill our roles in orchestrating this harmony that God intended for the sexual relationship, we must be in tune not only to our own sexuality, but to our husbands as well. In 1 Corinthians 7:33, we find that the married woman is concerned about how she may please her husband. As wives concerned with pleasing our mates, we should make it a priority to gain insight and knowledge in regards to what's exciting and what's pleasurable to our mates. Okay? We need to be able to communicate rejection and understand how to do that, not necessarily communicate rejection. Let me back up here. As far as gaining insight and knowledge in regards to what's exciting and pleasurable to them, as well as what communicates rejection and disapproval prior to and during the physical act of lovemaking. Now, in order to really understand and appreciate what the sex act means to our mate, let's get in tune to what the sex act does for our mates. Viewing life through someone else's eyes is a key to appreciating and understanding that person. The failure of many of us as wives to understand what lovemaking really means to a man leads to erroneous conclusions that can stifle our natural abilities to respond to his advances. To our husbands, lovemaking is of vital significance because it satisfies their sex drives. Most studies show that the male in all species of all living creatures has the stronger sex drive. Men reach the height of their sexual vigor at about 17 or 18 years of age. This explanation sheds some insight as to why they are always in the mood. Our husbands' sex drives are actually gifts from God. to produce the motivation for procreation, which is still the primary social purpose of mankind. This gift influences every aspect of his life. Without it, he would not be the man with whom you fell in love with, sisters. It is a wise woman who cooperates with that need rather than fight against it. Understanding our mate's strong sexual drives sheds light on his need for a little bit, a quickie. By the way, anyone here know what a little bit is? Someone asked me, and I haven't been able to figure it out. What's a little bit? Anybody know what a little bit is? 2 minutes. What was that? 2 minutes? Okay. I'm still trying to figure out what a little bit of sex is, but I'm sure by the end of this, we'll all know. Okay, in any regards, our positive response to occasional quickies sends a strong message of affirmation to our mates. A positive way to view quickies is to look at them as small gifts of love to our mates. As the old saying goes, big things come in small packages. Our husbands view these small gifts in a very large way, sisters. The sex act also fulfills our husband's manhood. A man usually possesses a stronger ego than a woman. If he is not a man in his own eyes, he's nothing. And somehow his sex drive seems to be intricately linked to his ego. A man can endure academic, occupational, and social failure as long as he and his wife relate well together in the bedroom. But success in other fields become a hollow mockery if he strikes out in bed. I'm sure many of you sisters can relate, as Melvin had mentioned earlier. In your hubby coming home after a hard day at work, you just know he's beat and go into bed as soon as possible. Instead, he informs you that he's in the mood. And then afterwards, he informs you that he feels like a new man. Can you believe that? Our positive responses to our mates when he initiates the sex act esteems him, sisters. According to Dennis Rainey, family and marriage counselor, the initiation of the sex act represents risk for our husbands. He goes on to say that at this point, our husbands are most vulnerable because his sexuality is so closely linked to who he is as a person. Rejection at this point can cause some mates to feel incompetent and like a failure. If we're unable to fulfill our mate's sexual needs, which we aren't always able to do that, sisters, we can't do it all the time, but we need to make sure. Do we want to go back to the realities of marriage and how that has a tendency to drain us? Those kids, those pressures, that's why. That's at least one of the reasons why. But anyway, when we aren't able to fulfill those sexual needs, we need to make sure that we communicate that to him in a way that it doesn't wound his ego. Not like, no, not tonight. I don't think so. None of that, sisters, but just in a way that allows him to still feel good about who he is as your husband. Remember what Proverbs says about the tongue. Life and death are in the power of the tongue. It's the wise woman who recognizes this and seeks to affirm her hubby at his point of initiation. The sexual act also enhances our husband's love for us, sisters. A woman's view of intimacy, she views it through the eyes of a relationship. This close relationship enables her to freely give herself sexually to her mate. On the other hand, a man views romance, intimacy, not exclusively, brothers, but primarily through the sexual relationship. Neither view is wrong. God created us with these needs, and through the marriage relationship, these needs can be met. When both understand the roles they play in fulfilling each other's needs, the harmony that's intended for the relationship can be achieved. As wives seeking to please our husbands, we often will sacrifice our relational needs to fulfill his sexual needs. When we give ourselves for his pleasure, doing those quickies, we're actually putting our sexual fulfillment on hold, sisters. In essence, we're saying that your needs are important to me, honey, and I'm willing to consider them above my own. Now, this is genuine love, sisters. This experience in love making actually enhances our husband's love for us. Now that we have a clearer understanding of what love making means to our husbands and how in the process his love for us is enhanced, let's prepare ourselves and set the stage for our grand debut. First and foremost is the timing. As Solomon says, there's a time for everything. And we need to make sure that we plan it. We must plan a time when interruptions will be minimized. Put on the answering service. And for those with young children, make sure they're down at a reasonable time. You can let your husband in on the upcoming debut, or you can surprise him on the eve of the performance. Either way, your mate will be pleased and honored that you're considering his needs. Candles, now that we've set the time, let's look at the stage. Candles, soft music, and we have attempted to set some of this up for you over here. We don't have the soft music, but we have the candle, and we have the apple cider, the chilled apple cider, your 2 favorite goblets. Let's see. All of these things are always appropriate, and because we're so unique, we bring different things to the stage. So, sisters, you just kind of add in the things that you'd like to have there. Next, let's prepare our bodies for lovemaking. Will it be a nice warm bath filled to the brim with billions of fragrant bubbles, or a relaxing hot shower? The choice is yours, sisters. At this point, Esther comes to mind. Now, for 12 months, this sister was pampered. Her body was massaged with the oils of myrrh and other spices. And then for 6 more months, her body also was massaged with different types of spices. Some girls have all the luck, but nevertheless, we can have the same effect with our own special love potions. And someone even asked, what was the stuff over here? We have our own love potions, and we have our dust, our little feathers. Are you all familiar with this? Oh my goodness. Well, let me show you, sisters, how this works. What you actually do is, you put it in the bag, and then you actually dust it on. You put it on you, and it's very tasty. It tastes very good. And so this, let's give it Brother Thomas. We don't have the privilege of 12 long months of being pampered and rubbed on. We can still create our own, special times for our husbands. We're not as fortunate as Esther. Now, after preparing our bodies, keeping in mind that our hubbies are visually oriented and what they see is extremely important to them. So let's put on that special teddy, sisters, that says we're ready. Now, when it's time to make the music of love, be creative in your love making to him. Find out which keys are especially pleasing and play them ecstatically. The masterpieces that will fill the room will be ballads of love and acceptance, sweet melodies of appreciation and esteem for our mates. Now, sisters, we're all unique and different and creative, as I said, in our own very special ways. Now, some of the ideas that were presented, and even the ones that we have over here, are just that, ideas. Ideas that will hopefully stimulate you to be creative in your approach to lovemaking. The main objective being to minister to our mate's sexual needs. In doing so, we crown him king. I'd like to close by sharing a couple of articles written to Dear Abby. The first one reads, it comes from an irate husband who complained about his wife's lousy housekeeping abilities. He admitted to one positive trait that he liked. He stated that she'll go to bed with me anytime. Isn't that something? Now, the second letter came shortly after the first one had been printed. It came from a salesman who asked Abby to tell that first man to be grateful for his marital blessings. He stated that if he had a wife like that, he'd be motivated to make enough money to hire her a maid to clean that house. So, sisters, isn't that something? There are fringe benefits to ministering to our mate's sexual needs, so let's get busy.
Brought that feather home and that dust. You know, I kind of looked at it and laughed about that feather. What is that feather for? We don't need no feather around here. We doing all right. But if you put that feather on you, brother. I'm just telling y'all, because we got a little package now. We're going to have a little package. You're going to have a feather on it. Just one little feather. Brother, don't laugh at that little feather. that little feather is something. The goal of marriage, InTune, as CJ and Andrea said, that must be careful, must be very, it's very important for the spiritual aspect to stay a part of all of this. The goal of marriage, in closing for our session this afternoon in tune, trusting Christ alone to meet your personal needs for security and significance. No one else can do that. No one else can do that. Not even your spouse can do that. And sometimes we're in relationships and we have a spouse who are not able to do that. They're not spiritually able to do that. They're not mature enough to do that. And when we're in Christ, we have to understand that trusting in Christ alone, Christ will meet all of our personal needs for security and significance. All of them. We're given all things in Christ Jesus. That's spirit oneness. Soul oneness, then, is ministering to your partner in a way that enhances an awareness of his or her worth in Christ. Again, the key word is ministry. Ministering, even in the sex act itself, it should be looked at as a ministry. And when both people are ministering to each other, and it becomes something special, something wonderful, something very meaningful. Again, personal satisfaction, sexual satisfaction plus personal meaning equals sexual excitement for the partners. Then body oneness, enjoying sexual pleasure as an expression and outgrowth of a personal relationship. Enjoying sexual pleasure as an expression and outgrowth of a personal relationship. When you have the spirit oneness aspect of it in place, and you are in touch and in tune with God. And by being in touch and in tune with God, you're going to understand what it really means for a husband and wife to be one. And then you're going to be willing to minister. There's no selfishness in ministry. You're going to be willing to give, and you're going to learn how to give and what to give, and there is no how much when you ministering. It's only what can I give. And if I don't have enough, God bless me with the wisdom and the courage then to give what is necessary so that my wife or my husband or my mate can have a meaningful experience, a meaningful relationship. All of these are important. Spirit oneness, soul oneness, body oneness. Intimacy. It's about being in touch. It's about being in tune. And I want to thank again a very special couple, CJ and Andrea, and also my lovely wife for the time spent in sharing and just preparing for this. It's just been a very special blessing for us. This afternoon, we hope that we've been able to share some things that will help you in your relationship to be all that, for it to be all that God has designed for it to be. Be in touch with God, in touch with one another, be in tune with God and in tune with each other. And that will create your body oneness.
details of that, and also bringing forth the contestants and also just the insights of what the